I was saving that. Just a random Jodeci. Oh my God, he's here. Just sing the song. You can't do nothing regular, can you? Nope. I am Jodeci. Welcome to After Playlist, the music playlist discussion and reaction podcast. I am one of your hosts, Terry Yo.
And I'm Brandon Lee. And we love music and talking about it. So today, to show that, we are going to be diving into Stevie Wonder's profound influence as we explore how he shaped music production soundscapes, music business, and most importantly, the hearts of music lovers everywhere.
Yes. And we're going to be referring to songs from the playlist throughout the episode. But we're going to get to that part a little bit later.
So before we dive into the episode, we have our usual After Playlist disclaimers. Quick and short and sweet. We have number 1, we respect everyone's opinion, regardless of how wrong and awful it may be. And number 2, we're just talking about the music, not the artist's real life, personable or cancelable issues. Though I don't think that's going to be any issues today. Maybe. I'm here to learn today. So if I'm wrong in saying that, I'll find out. And lastly, if you're enjoying the podcast, be sure to give us a like and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to your podcasts. We are there. Please, give us a like and subscribe, heart, favorite, star, whatever you want to do. That is the easiest way to share and support the show. And also, it's free. So
that's right.
Yeah, helps you guys as well. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Terrio, and we're going to start talking about Stevie Wonder's influence.
All right. So before we hop into this mini sort of kind of deep dive, or crash course rather, how familiar are you with Stevie Wonder's music? I know we kind of briefly discussed it beforehand, but
for me, first of all, this playlist, I was not like super familiar with any of the songs of his on this playlist. He's one of those artists that is like, his music is so culturally significant. I feel like it's another one of those artists that a lot of his music is used in TV shows and commercials and movies, and you hear it at different specific events, like just out and about. He's one of those artists that's very ubiquitous in pop culture. So I've heard a lot of his songs like through those avenues over the years. Enough to say I was like definitely familiar. Like I could pick out a Stevie Wonder song like when I hear it, like, oh, that's Stevie singing his heart out right now. But this playlist and like listening to it this last week really made me realize that I have not really ever sat down and like just straight up listened like from beginning to end a lot of his songs. Like I said, it's been, those snippets, like it might be the chorus or a specific verse from a song that's in like a movie or something. I would hear that and recognize that as it's used ad nauseum and other stuff.
Yeah.
But this was like, it was very nice to sit down and like actually like listen, especially for the like couple songs that I was familiar with from the playlist, to like actually listen to the whole song and not just a snippet I was familiar with.
Yeah. My situation was very similar to that. I've known Stevie. I'd recognize his voice. I can recognize his harmonica for the most part, but I never really sat down and listened to his whole definitely have not listened to his entire discography, but we'll get to that part next. But I've known him through various family functions, events, and recognize like the hits, the songs that they played on the radio, the classics and all of that. But I never really sat down and actually listened to a lot of his stuff. Or actually now, since I'm actually listening to lyrics a lot more, actually listen to the lyrics of the song because I recognize the beat, a lot of the songs, and in the chorus, the parts that's really catchy, but never really sat down and like really listen. And obviously for me, being Black or whatever, we have our Happy Birthday, song or whatever. So I knew that version of, Happy Birthday, the Stevie Wonder version. So that's the one we always, sung instead of versus the one that was copyrighted for many years. And recently now you can actually say Happy Birthday and not be sued to oblivion. But yeah, so that was my story. Now I want to kind of segue into how this episode came to be. So this episode kind of started twofold. So it all started with Roger and Zapp. So there was a song by Roger and Zapp that I really loved and I wanted to feature on this podcast at some point called Living for the City. Now, when I heard the song, I've only heard the Roger and Zapp version. Upon doing my research, I found out that that was a Stevie Wonder cover. I was like, what the hell? Stevie Wonder did this? I was like, oh, okay. I'll take a mental note of that. Put it to the side, move on. Then the next part was kind of your fault, to be honest. So because you put Stevie Wonder's ass on
As by Stevie Wonder.
You put Stevie Wonder's entire ass on on Powerhouse Male Singers on that episode and on that playlist. And if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it. It's a good one. And it's just, it's definitely one of my faves. And because you had that song by Ass, because you had that song Ass by Stevie Wonder. God, it's so hard to say that song. He really needs to rename that song. I don't care how old the song is, rename it. but because you had that song on the playlist, I kind of took another mental note. I was like, I don't think I've listened to this song all the way through. I don't think I really listened much of Stevie Wonder. And at that time, we briefly discussed on that episode how Gangsta's Paradise and through, Amish Paradise, whatever, all that came through Pastime Paradise because I had recently it was brought to my attention that was a sample and of that original song, and we both listened to that and vibed out to that. So that happened.
Which is still, even after listening to all three of those songs you just mentioned back to back this last week, it's just, man, I love that.
Right?
It makes me so happy. That's how they sampled it and how they used it is just, I don't know. That's as someone who oftentimes, as we've stated on that episode, I think misses samples and such.
Yes.
This one in particular is it's become one of my favorite examples of a sample being used.
Mm-hmm. And living on, right?
And living on, that's a good way to put it.
So after that, I decided to, listen to a random Stevie Wonder playlist at work. I think it was on YouTube Music or Spotify or whatever. And bro, as I'm listening to this random playlist, I was like, you know what? Let me listen to some Stevie Wonder. That's a gap in my music knowledge. Let me kind of go back and listen to that. Bruh, as I'm listening to song after song, I was like, I know that sample. I know that sample. I know this sample. I heard this before. I heard this element before. I was like, holy fuck. This guy has influenced a lot of the music that I personally know of and enjoy. And I didn't even know it. So it was one of those moments where my mind kind of blew. It's like, for lack of a better example, it kind of feels like Stevie Wonder was kind of like the man behind the curtain, all these years of my music taste, my music knowledge. And throughout my music production journey from my youth through now is just like, wow, without this man, a lot of the sounds that I love and thoroughly enjoy, and just from a production standpoint, I can't sing worth a damn, so I'm not even gonna touch that. But
right,
but just from a instrumentation and production and all of that good stuff, it just really blew my mind. So it was basically I was haunted and enlightened at the same time.
it definitely also blew my mind how every single Stevie song on the playlist you had, for several of them you only put one song that sampled it, following it, but then near the end there's 2 or 3 songs where it's 2 or 3 examples of it being sampled. And I'm sure you could probably go back and find other songs that the ones where you only gave one example of it being sampled. I'm sure those songs were probably sampled by other artists and other songs. It's just, you didn't know it or like it enough to put it on the playlist.
Exactly.
But so the whole situation of that, I guess is one way to put it, has had me wondering how, just in general, I don't know if Stevie Wonder is even close to being the most sampled artist or anything, but I wonder how close to that he is.
You know what? I that was a rabbit hole I almost went down, but I was like, I'm already deep enough. But in this man's illustrious career, I'm quite sure a lot of his music has been sampled in various different ways. Just out of curiosity now, since we done brought it up, I think there's a way I can quickly pull it up. just to see.
Apparently, James Brown is the most sampled artist of all time.
Okay, I can believe that.
I also can believe that. I saw that internally and went, yep, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So, so according to whosampled.com, not a sponsor, but if you want to, you can. Stevie Wonder has been sampled 948 times and has been covered 1,783 times.
Woo.
So, which makes
that's true. Like if you're just looking at samples, that's people who are making it unique. But there's a ton of people that have covered his songs and redone his songs over the years.
Absolutely,
you got to add that in there too, because that's. I mean, oftentimes they put their own little spin on it, even if it is a cover. So I would say it's different enough to count.
Oh yeah, 100%. And then a lot of the covers that I did see, a lot of them were done by jazz musicians, actually. And I don't want to go down that road, not yet. So, speaking of some of the songs, before we get into his autobiography and fun facts, we kind of talked about the playlists enough and kind of teased it enough. So, go ahead and let everybody know some of the songs we're going to talk about, and then we're going to do a little quick deep dive, and then we're going to get into the songs.
Okie dokie. Starting at the top, we have Stevie Wonder's Visions, which was later used in I'll Do Anything / I'm Sorry by Ginuwine. Then we have Stevie Wonder's Pastime Paradise, which you already stated was later used in Gangsta's Paradise by Coolio featuring LV, as well as Amish Paradise by Weird Al Yankovic. Then Stevie Wonder's I Wish, which was later used in Wild Wild West by Will Smith featuring Kool Mo D and Cisco from Drew Hill. Then Do I Do by Stevie Wonder, which was later used in Livin' It Up by Ja Rule featuring Case. Is it Case? It's Case, right?
It's Case.
Okay. You never know, man. Sometimes they make that long E at the end.
It's not Case.
I gotta check.
Right?
Okay, so after Do I Do by Stevie Wonder, we have Stevie Wonder's Living for the City, which was covered by Roger and Zapp, which you also already mentioned. Then we have Stevie Wonder's Lately, which was covered by Jodeci. Mm-hmm. Then we have his song That Girl, which was later used in So Many Tears by Tupac, which is one of my favorite samples that you would put on here, personally. Then we have Tammy Terrell's All I Do Is Think About You, which was later covered by Stevie Wonder, and then was later used in One Missed Call by PJ. And then Chica's Get Here, which features Stevie Wonder.
Yes.
Rounds out the playlist.
Yeah, definitely that. So those are some of the songs we're going to talk about. There is no way we can do a sizable podcast episode about Stevie Wonder's discography. So the other disclaimer that I didn't put in there, but I'm gonna throw out there now is, we know about the hits, the Superstitions, and I Just Called to Say I Love You. Those are all the classics. We get that. But I wanted to kind of make it a little bit more personable for me, because the songs that I put on here have a significant meaning to me personally. I was mind blown by some of them, not all of them, but a good majority of them. I was shocked that they were even done by Stevie Wonder, which again blew my mind. So let's do a quick detour pivot, if you would, into some quick fun facts as well as a quick biography of Stevie Wonder. Again,
okay,
not gonna do a full deep dive because it's a lot of information. So stay with me, and if you have any questions, jump in. I'm gonna try to blow through these as quickly as I can, so we can kind of get to the music. So you may or may not know this, but Stevie Wonder's not his real name, right?
I mean, that's something I've never thought about, but now that you say it, yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's such a stage name, like
right. It's just like the weather forecaster. Hi, I am Mary Weather. I'm like, okay, come on now.
Yeah, like
either you were predestined for this, or there's no way. But yeah, so his real name is Stevlin Hardaway Judkins, but was later changed to Stevlin Hardaway Morris. So that's his
Steveland. That's a name that's fallen out of style.
I mean, the man was born in 1950, so you know that's an old school name.
Yeah, I guess. I wonder if it was old school then, dude. Like, I don't think I've ever heard another Steve Lind.
Right? Heard it was Steven. No, Steve Lind. Okay. So, but yeah, so yes, Stevie Wonder is legitimately blind. I know there's a lot of jokes about it, but when he was born in 1950, March 13th to be exact, he was born premature. And because he was born premature, his retinas never got a chance to fully form, and they were detached. So he was out the gate blind. I thought he progressed to blindness, but apparently out the gate he was blind.
No, there was Ray Charles. There was he as like a young boy slowly lost his eyesight. As in my earlier days, I definitely got those two mixed up a lot.
You know what? Same here, because they're very similar, and Ray Charles will come back up in the picture.
Same time periods, roughly.
Mm-hmm.
Similar vibe in some of their music. Yeah.
Yes.
It's understandable.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, he will pop back up in this story.
Okay.
So that's, the general, quick biography. I'm not going into all his personal business, but I would throw this out there real quick. Yes, the man was born blind, but hide your kids and hide your wife. This man got married 3 times and got 9 kids. So clearly he knows what's going on. So, but anywho, so he got signed to Tamla Records, which later became the legendary Motown Records. So Motown Records started off as Tamla, and then eventually became Motown Records when he was only 11 years old, and that was in 1961. So if you do the math, he's been in the music industry professionally for 63 years at the time of this recording of this podcast.
And I mean that's amazing by itself. But then just the fact that he started at 11?
Started at 11 years old. And the way the contract was set up at the time was when he got his record deal, his payments were put into a trust, and once he became of age, he was able to access his income from that point. But his mother was given a stipend of $2.50, I think, a week or a month or something like that, probably a week, which equates to like $25 or something now, inflation, all that stuff. But
okay, hold on, I'm gonna look that up. $2.50, what would that be, like 1960? Because you said he was like 11.
Yeah, 1961.
Or 60s.
1961.
Okay, so let's see here. $2.50 in 1961. Yeah, that's $25.73 as of 2024 with inflation.
Yeah. So yeah, okay,
so $25. That was a week. You said?
Week. $25 a week. To help cover his expenses, outside of the money he was making doing with music.
I mean, were they well off?
No,
at all?
Of course not. But then again, this is like early, like Detroit. Things are a lot cheaper. You can buy like a soda for like 5 cents. So
true.
So, but that's the past. So, oddly enough, like I said, he's been in the music industry for about 63 years at the time of this podcast recording. But oddly enough, he was almost dropped from Motown due to a few early unsuccessful projects, including a tribute album to Ray Charles.
Oh,
so at 11 or 13 something years old, potentially, I think he did a Ray Charles tribute album, and it kind of underperformed at Motown, but they still saw the prodigy in him, because the fact being that he is a blind kid that can play all these instruments and sing and write and all this stuff. So they were like, you're not making any money, but we don't want to, this is very unique, at the time.
Right. And I definitely see how he could, or like why he wanted to, pay a tribute to Ray Charles as a kid who was basically born blind. It's been, at that point he had not ever known anything else. So I'm sure he definitely is, starting music like professionally at such a young age. I'm sure he saw a lot of himself and what he wanted to be in Ray Charles. Potentially.
And then also, the record label going to try to make the money anyway. So they're just like, oh yeah, we could spend this as a new.
True. I could be implanting a lot of feelings and thoughts that Stevie was like, no, I hate Ray Charles.
Yeah, they had beef back then. BBL Ray Charles. No. So I did forget that I did omit one part. So when he was signed at 11 years old to Motown, his stage name was Little Stevie Wonder. That was his name. So yeah, so he had a few unsuccessful projects as Little Stevie Wonder on the Ray Charles album, a couple other little songs here and there, and luckily, Sylvia Moy, who was the first woman to write and produce acts at Motown, convinced the label to give Stevie Wonder another chance. And they was like, okay, we'll give him another shot. And Sylvia and Stevie got together and wrote some stuff and produced some stuff. And she told him to drop the little from your name. So from that point on, he became just Stevie Wonder, not Little Stevie Wonder. And from that point, a few little dips here and there, but pretty much safe to say that once he dropped a little, his career skyrocketed from that point.
It's interesting how, I've never thought about it, but I guess that's been a music tradition almost, I guess, for lack of a better word, to have for a young artist is professionally making music at a young age to have a little, and some, you see it in rappers all the time nowadays, but it's kind of cool to think it's that's been a thing since forever.
Oh yeah. And then also the fact when you think about it, there's the littles and the youngs, and so many of the little and the youngs that are out here now. And a lot of them, once they get to a certain point in their career, they're like, I'm not little no more, respect me. And they drop the little off their name. They
drop it.
So, Jeezy's just Jeezy now instead of Young Jeezy. Lil Wayne at one point tried to go by Wayne, I think, for a minute, and that just really didn't stick.
It depends, I feel on how big they blow up under the Lil name. And then if you got to massive success and you have Lil, people are just going to know you as Lil whatever.
Exactly.
Right? Or Young whatever, or whatever it is.
Exactly. But
it's hard to drop it after that.
But that would be hilarious. 85 years old, coming to the stage, Lil Wayne. Yeah, like a lollipop. Like a lollipop. That'd just be hilarious. But anyway, so he spent majority of his career on Motown Records. But after a few different label shifts and all that good stuff, like corporate structures, because Motown got bought out and sold, rinsed and repeat. It was part of Def Jam at one point, part of Universal. Universal merged with Motown, became Universal Motown. Then they merged with Republic. It became Universal Motown Republic. So a lot of stuff with that. But now he's actually signed to Republic Records, which makes him label mates with people like Nicki Minaj, Taylor Swift, Bo Burnham, Post Malone, Glass Animals. All of them are on the same label as Stevie Wonder.
Well, that sounds weird on paper, but then, I think we've said on the podcast before on previous episodes that a lot of labels there's 7 super labels nowadays that all have under labels. It's like a Trishka doll. It's just, you open it up and there's another label, open that one, it's another label, open that up, another label.
Yeah. And it's crazy. But I just looked at that. I was just like, is he still on Motown? And I saw the structure and I was just like, wow, that's crazy. Because
it is a fun fact though, just to say Bo Burnham? Yeah, he's on the same record as Stevie Wonder.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, they can easily bump into each other in the studio like, hey, you want to get on this remix? So he had his first hit record when he was 13 years old with a song called Fingertips in 1963. He has 25 Grammy Awards as a solo artist, which is the most for any male artist in history right now. So, which is insane because
That is insane.
Yeah, Michael Jackson doesn't have that many Grammys. Even Elvis doesn't have that many Grammys. This man has 25 Grammy Awards as a solo artist on his own, which is
that's nutty.
Yeah,
to even think about.
Right?
How many of those did he win? Any of those at the same time?
Oddly enough, so I want to say I think it was 1975. I believe, if my memory serves correct, he won Album of the Year 2 years in a row, back to back. And then on the third year, the year after his second win, I think Paul McCartney won. And I think in his acceptance speech or in the notes or whatever, he said, I want to thank Stevie Wonder for not making the album this year. So that way he had a chance to actually win something. So I thought that part cracked me up when I read that. So another fun fact is, again, how I mentioned earlier, the Happy Birthday song, the Black community knows the song, but it goes, "Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you." That song,
Mm-hmm.
that song was dedicated to Martin Luther King.
Wow.
Yeah. So that song was in an effort for him. That was him being an activist. He was pushing for Martin Luther King Day to be an actual holiday, and that song
Okay, so he was
contributed.
like a big pusher of that
Mm-hmm.
coming about. Then I assume.
Yep.
I'm sure the song also played a pretty big part.
It did. It did. So, and he later on went on to receive the what Presidential Medal of Freedom or something. I think President Obama gave him that, which I think is like one of the highest awards that can be given to like a civilian for all his years of activism. Because he didn't want to be pigeonholed into just being an R&B guy, he actually toured with like the Rolling Stones and a few other different artists. He's written and performed with so many high-profile artists, including Michael Jackson, Paul McCartney. I said that weird. Paul McCartney, a bunch of groups at Motown, like the Supremes and all of them. Lenny Kravitz. He's worked with Busta Rhymes, Dr. Dre, Dionne Warwick, Elton John, and many more. Like I said, the guy's been doing music professionally for 60 years. So he's been out there in those streets.
And I feel like, I mean, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but in general, like Stevie is like very beloved, right?
Yeah.
Like across genres, across communities, like he doesn't really have like musically, if you're just looking at him as like a musical persona, like he doesn't really have anything that's like divisive or
potentially.
I don't feel like
potentially. So like early on in his career, because he was so gifted, it kind of came off as pretentious to some people and disparate because during that time they had like the Motown Reviews, which basically was like a tour of different artists that were signed to Motown and go perform, and you do this song, you sound like this person, you go do this. Stevie kept bucking against that norm. Like he was like, I would do the sound that you want, the traditional sound, the Temptation sound or whatever, but that's not really who I am. I want to experiment. I want to grow. In doing so, he actually had to fight against his record label for more creative autonomy and to experiment. So in doing so, he got a chance to like network and get on some early technology called synthesizers. Back in that day, you played like real instruments, but then the synthesizer was being born and being developed, and all these new electronic machines were happening. And Stevie was right at the forefront. And how Amish.
Yeah, so you talked about that in the Male Powerhouse episode, where whenever we took a second to listen to Pastime Paradise, that album, right, was the first album to have.
Yes, that album and that song in particular was the first recorded song to actually have like synthesized strings and all that good stuff. So, he experimented with a lot of that technology as well as layering and overdubbing and basically becoming a one-man force. So, a lot of his music, I would say honestly, like a good 90 to 95% of his music is all done by him. He played every instrument in the song, which is rare.
And again, impressive because like obviously it's not stopped him in any way, but just the fact that he has the disability of being blind like as a hurdle for all of those, but he's overcome that, not just for being a really good singer and being a good pianist, but like doing other instruments as well and doing the like making of the album himself.
Yeah, and writing as well.
And the writing. Yeah, it's just prodigy, you said earlier, I feel like is such an apt word for him. The more I'm learning.
Yeah, which is insane, and there's pitfalls and downfalls, in his career. I think he had like a major car accident like in 1973-ish, I think, which kind of like, let them down and out for a little bit. He wasn't driving. Let me throw that out there. He was riding with someone.
Oh, wow.
Like Stevie good, but he ain't that good. I can hear the turn coming ahead. No, he's not that
great. Oh my God.
So, he got to a major car accident and he had to fight to recover and all that good stuff. So, but yeah, so that's just like a little bit of fun fact and the little bit biography of who Stevie Wonder, the man, the prodigy, and all that good stuff. Now, I want to turn to some of these songs, which I do have fun facts and interesting little tidbits about the songs in particular. But I divided the playlist, my notes, kind of in a way of the songs that I knew were covers or had samples, and songs I didn't know. And the one I really want to get into right off the bat, and then from there you kind of can, we can pick and choose where we're going to go after that. Visions. There's a reason I started the playlist off with that. And then, by the way, I forgot to mention this earlier. To better experience the playlist, I highly recommend you listen to the playlist in sequential order, because I have it I have it in
1,000%. Yes. Listen to it in order. Yeah. It'll make more sense that way.
It'll make more sense that way, and you can catch the little bit. But Visions by Stevie Wonder and Ginuwine's I'll Do Anything I'm Sorry. So I'll Do Anything I'm Sorry to me is one of my top 5 Ginuwine songs. Like, I love that song. It's just I love the production that Timbaland did with it, and I like the messaging of the song is, whatever. It's kind of basic and generic, but I just like the feeling and the vibe of it. So when I discovered or uncovered or realized that this was a cover of Stevie Wonder, I was like, huh? Well, I never heard this Vision songs before. Let me listen to that. And when I put on Stevie Wonder's version of that song, bro, I like melted. I was like, this does not make any damn sense. And I was like, I did not know that, like, I loved Stevie Wonder as much. Like, bro, like, when I first started making music, the little Casio keyboard that I had, that I bought with my own money after I had my first little job when I was, of age or whatever, they had like a few little pre-recorded songs on there of mainstream songs that you kind of can like follow along and see. Superstition was on my keyboard. So like I always would have the keyboard play Superstition, and then I'll like add my own little drum beat on top of it. It had the dang, 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 had that whole sound. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I love this song. And then to hear that around the same time when I was falling in love with the song I'll Do Anything I'm Sorry, which, little fun fact about this song, this is like early on in Timbaland and Missy's career. So Missy Elliott wrote that song. And Missy Elliott is doing the background vocals in the song as well.
I kind of sort of peeped that. I had a moment where it was like, I didn't necessarily fully connect Missy Elliott, but I know we've talked about like Ginuwine and Timbaland and Missy Elliott, and like that group all came up together at the same time and we're all friends or whatever. And I had a moment where I was like, I know that voice.
Yep.
Is that Missy? Maybe that's Missy. So I'm glad you said that.
Yes. And of course, Timbaland did his little rap or whatever. But like on the album, like I just thoroughly enjoy how that song starts and how it segues into that song, which I didn't put on the playlist because like this is the same album that Pony came off of. So this is like Ginuwine's first album. And then that album, it's okay. It's kind of mid, but I enjoyed it for what it is. But Timbaland produced the entire album, and the songs are kind of different and variant. So he put like little interstitials that kind of segue into the songs. So on the song prior to this song, it's a little bit of a slower song, but at the end it kind of fades out, and then this crazy beat comes in, just an instrumental. It's like boom, 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 like have that whole beat going on, and then the song just jumps right into how it is on the playlist. And I thought it was interesting because I put Stevie Wonder's and Ginuwine's back to back, and it still kind of had that same feel of just boom, jumping right into it. And personally, from a producer standpoint, I love how empty and simplistic the Stevie Wonder's version is. And I like how Timbaland, even though he put his crazy over the top drum beats on top of it, it still kind of felt simple and empty at the same time. I'm curious what your thoughts were on that song when you heard it.
Well, I mean, you know me, first and foremost, I was listening to the lyrics for all of these Stevie songs on the playlist. And I mean, they're all beautiful in their own way, I will say. But this one especially just has, I don't know, such a optimistic is how I've kind of chosen to take it, like theme or messaging or whatever he's trying to say in the song. And then that, like you were saying, that's kind of playing both with and against the like kind of emptiness in the song, where it kind of leaves you feeling like optimistic, but also like in this like weird,
like the space in between, right?
Yeah, it's like how do I want to put it? It's like optimism is there. It's like right in front of you, but you're not quite there yet. Almost is how I would say it. I don't know if that's quite getting the point I'm trying to make across. It's just it put me in a very unique like mental headspace listening to the Visions by Stevie.
Exactly.
I would say it makes you kind of think about, like he talks about in the song, like just what to get to like what this vision of a better place. How do we get there? How do we go about it? I will say, again, you already know this, but I'm not like at all super familiar with Ginuwine. So his song, this was new.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do anything. I'm sorry. It was totally new to me, but I definitely agree with what you said about how Timbaland did a good job of still maintaining that emptiness in between the music or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Just in general, dude, all of the samples of his songs on this playlist they do such a good job of like keeping the spirit of like Stevie's music.
Yes.
Like, but then of course, they're doing their own thing on top of it, but it still has that like that essence underneath.
Yes.
That's something I really noticed in all the examples you chose.
Yes, definitely that, man. And Visions came out in 1973. And like I said, Ginuwine's first album. So this was back in 1996. So over 20 something years later,
right?
Song still has impact.
Oh yeah, it impacted me because Visions was also one of the Stevie Wonder songs I was not familiar with, so that was also new to me.
Yeah, same. But I definitely have to say one thing about that part of the song. There's a part of the song that gets me every time. When he says something about having an ending and the song, like you think the song stops, but then it picks right back up again. I was like, oh, that's so clever wordplay. I love that. So this is one of the few songs that he did not do entirely by himself. So he was on the keyboards, but he had some other people play guitar. But he did that.
I did notice that guitar because it has definitely it gave me honestly like a toned down Jimi Hendrix vibe. Like if he like brought Jimi Hendrix on and was like, all right, man, look, I need you to play some guitar for me, but don't do all your crazy stuff. Just stay on beat and just make it simple. And I feel like that's what it kind of sounded like if Jimmy had come in and did something like that.
Wow. They put
that's the vibe it gave me.
Yeah. If they put Jimi Hendrix on some lean or something.
Yeah, right.
Make him slow all the way down. So, okay. I could go to another one, or if you want to pick one that's on your mind.
Okay, well, I want to talk about my favorite Stevie song on the playlist. You've already referred to it. We've both referred to it a couple times, but "Living for the City," I think,
bro,
is my favorite on the playlist.
That song hits me in the feels every time.
It's such a great song, dude. Like, just from so many angles too. Like, okay, so the one thing that really drew me in on my first listen was lyrically and everything is good, and I enjoyed the music is very, very awesome and very Stevie Wonder. But it's near the end, like the last verse of the song, when he comes back in and he's got this like gravel in his throat, but he's still just like got such power behind his voice. It's just like, oh, and he does that on several songs on this playlist, don't get me wrong, but that's like such a clear where he's like, it's the whole, on other songs, it's like he might do like the last note on a line, or he'll get kind of gruff for like a word or two, but this was like the entire like last verse and chorus. He's like saying he's holding that gruffness, and that just really, really brought me in. Though I will say I was definitely blindsided by at least the version you put on the playlist where it has like a little skit in the middle.
Oh, that is the official like album version of that song. Which, well, I mean, honestly, to be fair, so was I. Like, I'd never heard that version. I'd never heard the original version, period. So when I went back and listened to it, I was just like, okay, I recognize where Zapp and Roger got their their feel from the song from. And then that skit came in, and I was like, huh, what? Oh, shit got real. Okay.
It definitely blindsided me. I was not expecting the hard R in the middle of a Stevie Wonder song.
Yeah, neither was I.
But it also is very thematic for like what the story being told in the song. Yeah, just that, man. That was like the one song that like after the playlist would like get to the end, instead of just looping back, I would just go back and just start at Living in the City or Living for the City.
Yes. That song earned 2 Grammys.
As it should.
And
phenomenal.
And Stevie Wonder played all the instruments. And he had his brother help out with the interlude, like with the lights and the vocals for the police and all that stuff. And that song itself was, at the time, very ahead of his time, because he sampled different instruments, different sounds, as well as sampling like the street, the bus noise, all of that stuff. Like, that was like a legitimate like technological feat from 1973 when the song came out.
See, I honestly thought this was like a version of a song that had like, that was like a clip from a movie or something. I had no idea where that came from. That was literally just he made that for the song.
He made that for the song, and it's the whole the soundscape of it all really blows your mind, because like when you're listening to it, like you hear him, hey, bus driver, hold up,
right.
let me get my ticket, and then you hear the bus kind of just like pan from left to right, and then you hear him getting off in the other, and like it's just, he put a lot of attention to detail into like where these things were coming from, and then the whole escalation of time, and him just, like while everything is happening in him in quote unquote real time, you can hear his internal monologue. Like he was like, what? I didn't do anything. I was just like, I mean, all that for $5 to run across the street, and then you end up getting life in prison because of it. So I'm just like, that's just, yeah, that was crazy. What do you think of the Zapp and Roger and Zapp version of Livin for the City?
I did like it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like it as much.
Yeah.
But I did like it. I will say this. I don't think, let's see, there's one, maybe two songs on this entire playlist that I didn't really like gel with as much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was kind of, well, no, that wasn't, sorry, that was not one of them. But it also didn't like, I don't know, I fell in love with Stevie's version so hard, like immediately, that like whenever the Roger and Zapp version came on, I was like, okay, well, this is like a cover. It's a really good cover. It's a really good cover. But I'm like, I'm so enamored with Stevie's version. It's hard to like get over that, I guess.
Oh, that's funny. And honestly, like that's kind of how I felt during this whole process. Cause I was like, okay, these are songs that I know. And then, go back in the and find the Stevie remake or whatever, or discover that they were originally by Stevie. And then when listening to them back to back over and over for the past week and a half or so, I was like, I'm conflicted. Because like part of me, like, it does the original justice, but because Stevie is Stevie and his music is like timeless and there's a lot put into it, it's hard to like, none of the covers or samples are better than the original, period, flat out, in my opinion.
I full stop 100,000 10,000,000% agree with that. at least for what we have on the playlist.
Exactly. But they're still good in their own right.
They're still really good. It's just, I don't know. For me, it was like, it's a little bit slower. And again, man, it's something about going back to what I was talking about with his voice at the end. Like, there's twofold why I love that so much. One, because as I'm pretty sure I've stated a few times on the podcast, just anyone who can like sing that kind of like gravelly rough, both male or female, just does something for me. I just love that kind of like gravelly rough, but still belting it out tone that really good singers can get. But then also, because of the theme and the nature of what he's actually singing about, it gives it more gravitas. Like you feel his emotion is like, that's like him showing his emotion of like what he's singing about. And you kind of lose that, I feel like, a little bit on the kind of slower paced Roger and Zapp.
Yeah, I can see that. But they try to make up for it at the very end of the song, which I cannot find if that was Roger singing or a member of Zapp that was singing at the very end of the Roger and Zapp version. But I thoroughly love how dude goes off and like he doesn't get as gravelly, but he gets very soulful and emotional.
He does get very soulful. It's like I said, it's good. Just it's good in like a different way. And I think because I fell in love with Stevie's version so hard, it kind of like like, well, that's good, but I want Stevie.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of that. It's like, that's good. I like that, but can we get Stevie back? But I will. I was about to compare it to like when you get the off brand, like it's okay, but you really want the name brand. But I was just like, that's kind of a diss, and I don't want to go that far with it.
There's maybe one song on here I would say is off brand, but okay. For everyone else, I'll say no.
Okay, fair enough. And I have a feeling which one you're thinking about, but I
feel like you probably know.
I probably know. But a lot of their songs, particularly with the group Zapp, were foundational to the West Coast sound. So if you go back and listen to early Dr. Dre, early Ice Cube, early NWA, Eazy-E, a lot of them use a lot of that synthesized funk sound, and a lot of that beats and production came from them. So that's I'm
like hearing like different West Coast beats in my head right now, and I'm just like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yes. So that's the story behind that. Speaking of West Coast, and you said this earlier, and this just really warmed my heart that's how I know that we're like kindred spirits. So Many Tears by Tupac is like one of my top 5 Tupac songs. Love that song. And
it's a good one.
So I'm listening to the Stevie Wonder playlist at work, and That Girl comes on, which came out in 1982. That song comes on, and like, okay, I recognize that song. I've heard it, but I never really like listen to it. Just like, that girl, know that she's so fine. Okay, whatever. So I'm listening to that. and then I hear da, 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 da. I was like, hold up, no, that can't be, no. And I played it back. I was like, fuck me sideways. I was like, so I went back, I pulled up the Tupac song and I listened to it. I was like, God damn it.
It's one of those songs where, like, in my head for years, that beat, oh, that's a classic Tupac beat. Not knowing, no, that's a classic Stevie Wonder beat that Tupac used.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, this playlist illuminated that for me, honestly. Because That Girl is another song by Stevie Wonder I was not at all familiar with.
Oh yeah, that song goes hard, and that song was actually kind of rare because it was a new song that was put on the Greatest Hits album. So yeah, so it was.
I mean, that checks out. It is a really good song.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I kind of glossed over this earlier, but like because he fought for like creative autonomy with his music and stuff. Once he finally got that and got out of his original contract that he signed when he was 11 years old and got a real contract as an adult,
right?
And he gained his he set standard, like he got like higher royalty rates and have full control over his music and stuff. So from that point on, you see like a lot of his albums kind of had a theme or the songs kind of bled into one another. So it wasn't just like, let me just throw out something real quick. It was like everything was a concept, or there was like a little bit of activism play, or there's a specific reason why certain, songs made certain
albums with a purpose, essentially, is what it sounds
100%. Like. But yeah, I like that one, like really threw me off about that Stevie's harmonica being in that. And I was just like, dang. And I bumped that song so hard. Like So Many Tears by Tupac, and my other favorite song by Tupac is called Temptations. But So Many Tears, when I play this one, I'm just like, I mean, it goes so hard. And just
it's a really good. It's one of, I agree with you. I don't know. I don't necessarily have like a list of favorite Tupac songs, but if I had to make a list, I think this one might be up there for me as well.
Yeah. It's again it just takes it over the edge. Like the beat itself was fine, but just that harmonica it's just that little accent you needed. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know. It's like putting like lemon on fish. You know what I'm saying? It's like you don't need it, but it just does something to it.
Lemon on fish. What a good yes. Well, okay. Unless you have something else to talk about That Girl and So Many Tears. Just while we're talking about rappers, I wanna talk about Chica, because I didn't realize for a long time that Stevie Wonder's on the song.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept trying to listen, dude. It broke my brain because the rest of the playlist is Stevie Wonder song that sampled it. Stevie Wonder song that sampled it. You have All I Do by Stevie Wonder, and then you have Get Here. And I was trying so hard. I don't know. Maybe it does still sample and it's just been heavily distorted. No. But I was like, that does not sound like All I Do. It does not. It does not. I know I'm bad at samples, but this is not the same. Why did he put this on here? It really broke me for a couple of days. I kept missing that Stevie Wonder's like on the song somehow.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad I could do that brain damage to you, sir. You're welcome. So I put this song on here just to kind of fast forward a moment to show that, again, this man has been active in the music industry for 60 years. That Chica song came out in 2023, and he is still out here, blessing people with his harmonica or playing or whatever else. And listening to the song, when I heard the playlist, not the playlist, because when I saw the album from Chica, I was like, obviously I'm hyped because I'm a fan of Chica. But when I saw she got Stevie Wonder on here, so I was expecting him to be singing or some kind of sample or something. But then when I listened to the song, and then I listened to the message in the song, and then I hear him playing a harmonica in the background, it just does something to you, man. It's just like one of those songs that's, yes, it's a little sultry, it's a little like kind of somber, but it's also positive and it kind of picks you up.
Well, yeah, absolutely it does. And this is, I think, one of my favorite songs offered. I mean, that whole album from Chica, though, I don't think there's a song on there I don't like, but I don't know. Maybe it's recency bias because I've been listening to this nonstop the last week, but I feel like this one's like one of my favorites off that album.
Oh, yeah. And it also closes out her album as well. So I was just like, you know what? I wanted to put this on the playlist to show that his influence continues, it's
still ongoing.
It's still ongoing, and again, I don't know. It's just that extra little sauce you need. Like, you don't need the hot sauce on it, but it just makes it so much better. And that's what his harmonica is to me. I must be hungry. I keep talking about food.
It's making me hungry talking about
it. Okay, I guess we got to talk about it. I've been tap dancing around it for the longest time. So I did a last minute audible and added Weird Al Amish Paradise to the playlist. Only because I felt like, okay, we did talk about it in the last episode, and I was like, I don't think I've actually really listened to the Amish Paradise as much. I know for a fact I haven't listened to Amish Paradise as much as Coolio and Pastime Paradise. But yeah.
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
Like, I've definitely not listened to that song since I was like, I don't know, maybe elementary school or maybe middle school, like the latest. Definitely.
Does it still hit
There's
for
still
you?
some bits. No. There's still a few lines that I like kind of chuckle at, but it's not near as funny as like 10-year-old me thought it was, or however old I was when the song came out.
Okay, because like I'm listening to it, I was like, this do not hit as much as people say they did. But then again, there's a big time difference from when this song came out. That song came out in 96. So it just, I guess it didn't have that staying power for me. But oddly enough, and doing my little research for this song, Coolio had beef with Weird Al about this song.
Did he really?
Yeah. So when it originally came out, of course, with Weird Al, he from my understanding of how he does his parodies, he does ask for permission before he does the parody, try to get the blessing from the artist or whatever else. But I guess during that time, he went through the proper channels, but I guess Coolio didn't have any say or final say in it. But, the label, the producers and everything else cleared it. It was, a hit. So it took off.
I think I've heard about didn't they eventually 15 years down the line finally link up and hash it out?
Yeah. They squashed it out.
I feel like I saw an interview from one of the two talking about it at one point. Now that you're saying it, it's tickling my memory.
Yeah. Which I mean, I didn't know the beef existed, but yeah, they definitely amended it many years before Coolio passed. But a fun fact about the song, about the Gangsta's Paradise song, that was Coolio won a Grammy off of that song. So again, without Stevie, would be no Gangsta's Paradise.
There would be no, right.
So, and he got a Grammy because of his song. And then also, Gangsta's Paradise was the first rap record to go straight to number one in the UK.
Oh.
So back in 95, which is crazy.
That's definitely surprising to me.
Yeah, to go.
I feel like, I don't know, I'm definitely I don't have the full historical knowledge, I guess, of late 80s, early 90s, and then mid 90s of music in the UK. But in my head, it's they're not rap focused at all over there in that time period.
No, not at all. I mean, because hip hop was still in its, I would say, not infancy, but early ages.
It was really
maybe 10 years.
I would say mid to late 80s. It was really finding its lane as a true genre.
Yeah, for sure.
Or widely being accepted, I guess is a better way to put that.
I agree with that.
So yeah, that's definitely surprising to hear that mid 90s UK a rap song was rocketed to number one.
Went straight to number one. I was just like, whoa, that's crazy. Because there's a lot of UK acts, and a lot of them you would probably find on this podcast, because apparently that was my lifestyle and my past life
apparently.
Or something. But yes, I thought that was pretty cool. And I want to get over to the last one on the playlist that I did not know about, and that was Jodeci's Lately. I've only heard the Jodeci version. And
I love this song too. This is another one I wasn't really familiar with by Stevie.
Yeah.
But I love both versions of this. I love the Jodeci version and the Stevie Wonder version. I think mainly because it's lyrically the song hits.
Yes.
It's I mean, the music and everything in both versions is obviously very good. Stevie and Jodeci are both phenomenal artists. But yeah, it's what really draws me in for this one is mainly the lyrics. So I think, the lyrics are kind of, it's the same on both. So
yeah, but I mean, but the performances are stellar. And Stevie's version came out in 1980, and that was all him. Again, just keyboard. But he just wrote the song, performed the song, played the song, did everything. And then this version of Lately was actually featured on MTV's Unplugged back in 1993, and it was used as a promotional single for the project that MTV was doing. So it wasn't really an official album single or album release from Jodeci. They just kind of featured on this compilation project that MTV was doing back in the day. And to date, this song is the group's highest, most successful pop record because of it.
Really?
So again, without Stevie, shooting up or whatever else with Jodeci. Now, I know, again, this is a song I grew up with and I heard it many a times. I liked it, but also I liked how a lot of people would I love Jodeci, don't get me wrong. But they would parody or make fun of the over singing that they do. Which is good, but you always like the moment you hear that, like you already know, so it's gonna be a lot going on in a song. So when I listened to the playlist and I heard Stevie's version, I was just like, huh, why did I heard this before? And I was like, oh shoot. And I'm listening to Stevie version. I'm like, oh, I can hear all the lyrics, and everything is all nice and clear and calm and sweet. And then here comes Jodeci. Just like all that extra. I'm just like, bruh, y'all doing a lot.
I do wonder if I would have liked the Jodeci version as much if I had just heard it by itself, like without hearing the Stevie version first. I do think going into it, I haven't already like heard and internalized Stevie's version. Definitely made me more partial. Like I was already warming up to it just at the gate.
I thought it was hilarious.
I do think that's the most. What word do I want to use? That's the most. I don't want to say depressing, but it's the most like sad feeling song by Stevie on here. I think.
Yeah. It's definitely in that range. I won't say it's the saddest for sure, but it's definitely in that range. The sad,
like lyrically speaking.
Okay,
is what
gotcha.
I guess what I mean.
Lyrically speaking, yeah.
Specifically lyrically speaking, it's like the most like because it's all about like he thinks, as far as I can tell, it sounds like he thinks his woman is like seeing other dudes, like she's wearing perfume late at night, and she's like being distracted in the relationship. And he's just like falling apart. He's like, there's a line where he's like, I'm staring at myself in the mirror, and I'm just like, dude, that is like such a clear line of like
going through it.
That says so much with saying so little. That song lyrically had me just like, man, it's a punch in the gut.
Yeah.
And I'm not even ever been cheated on or anything, but just I don't know, he put you in that space really well.
Yeah, it definitely does. And when you got a blind man staring at a mirror, that means you're really going through it.
That's a good point, dude. Oh my God. How did I miss that?
Okay, so before we get to, I think we got like three little cluster of songs I want to kind of mention. I'm going to get through two of them real briefly. We can just gloss over. We don't have to go.
Okay, I have one more I want to talk about. That's part of those three. So let's I'm going to start with that one. Sorry if that messes up your plans a little bit. I want to talk about I Wish.
Okay.
And the Wild Wild West song by Will Smith, Drew Hill, and Kool Mo D.
Yes. Which
was the one song on this playlist
that you did not like.
That I did not like. Which, okay, I grew up like Wild Wild West was one of those songs like my grandmother had, and like whenever I'd like go over there to like hang out with her, like my cousins were over there, we'd like oftentimes like after that movie had come out, she had it like for a couple of years. That was like a go-to movie for us for some reason. Whenever we were kids, and at the time as a kid, I loved it. It's maybe a few years back trying to watch that movie as an adult, I'm like, this movie is such hot garbage. I found it really hard to divorce the movie from the song just at the gate, which definitely maybe had me go in with some negative bias towards the song. But then, man, just I don't like the song, dude. I've tried really hard to like it. I don't like Wild Wild West by Will Smith. It's like, I don't know, it's kind of hacky to me. I mean, like it's just it falls in the same line. Another good example, Will Smith in Men in Black. It's just like that's another like movie tie-in song where it's just like it feels cash grabby and like non-authentic, non-genuine. It just, I don't know. It just, I hear it and I'm like, meh. But that being said, I love I Wish by Stevie Wonder. So like at the very least, I was able to like enjoy the beat under Wild Wild West while I was listening to it, especially having like learned that it's from a Stevie Wonder song.
Yeah.
That song in particular though, okay, so there's one line. I don't know who the background lady is that sings it, but there's like a line in the middle where he's talking about he was like doing graffiti on a wall, and someone catches him or whatever, and he's like writing nasty things on it, and then a woman's voice comes in, is like, "You nasty boy." Dude, That's, I don't know why, but that sent me the first time I caught it. It was like the second or third time I was listening to the song. I missed it the first time, but that absolutely sent me the first time. It just totally caught me off guard. And then just that song is just, I don't know, it's very relatable. Just like even today, just growing up, like not that I had this exact moment, but I definitely can somewhat relate to just like the situation of like, he's talking about like playing doctor with like a neighborhood girl, and his brother's going to tell on him, and he's like, no, I'll give you anything you want. And he's talking about how like, he has money to buy candy after Sunday school, and it doesn't say it, but I assume he had to pay his brother off with that money. Is how I took it. So, it talks just all the different trouble he would get into as a kid, like just definitely brought me back to my childhood and like getting into trouble and running around.
Definitely being a straight up demon child, just out here just wilding in the streets and having a good time. I mean, it was so much simpler back then. So that's one of the songs I knew, but I never listened to, if that makes any sense. Like I've always just heard the beat and just always kind of just vibe to the beat and just tune out the lyrics, like purposefully tune out the lyrics and just really just enjoyed the beat because it was just such a vibe. It
was similar for me where whenever it first played, I was like, I know this song, but I don't know this song.
And then when I listened to it, I was just like, damn, I kind of want to go back. And some of the things he mentioned, I definitely can relate. I'm not going to say which parts, but definitely. But yeah, so it was a good vibe. The funny thing about this song, not funny, but interesting little tidbit that I read about was the song was actually inspired by him being at a picnic, and he said he had like a terrible toothache. He was just like in so much pain, but he was having such a good time with like the people that were around him. And he just like immediately like went to the studio and like cranked this song out because of the vibe that they had at this picnic that he was at. So it just goes to show you, like, with the right kind of people in your life, the right kind of circumstance, you can be in pain, but just the joy of being around a good, close.
They can overcome that, overpower it, however you want to word
exactly.
it. Yeah. It's bigger than whatever pain you're going
through. Exactly. Physical or mental or otherwise. And my note about the Will Smith song was, this song was the only good thing to come out of the movie. And that's not, and that's pretty much it. And another off topic, but on topic related to this song was hindsight is 2020, but he chose to do this movie instead of doing The Matrix.
Doing The Matrix. I've read that before, that he specifically didn't pick, he not just doing being Neo, the main character in The Matrix. He passed on that to do this, and that, which, I mean, I love Keanu Reeves is like probably my favorite actor, so I'm okay with how history is, how that happened. But it's definitely one of those like moments where like, that's definitely a branch in the timeline that probably, maybe that timeline is like in a utopia now, and that's what we missed.
Right? All because he decided to do this dumbass movie. Speaking of the other rap song on here that I loathe when it came out, but in recent years, I kind of appreciate it a lot more, and that's the Ja Rule, Living It Up.
I thought I would hate, because I'm really not a fan of Ja Rule, but I really vibed to this song, honestly.
It's a vibe, and Case
it was playing while I took my shower earlier, and I was just like, in the shower, just popping to it.
In the shower, living it up.
Living it up.
So honestly, like, I feel like, to me, this is one of the better Ja Rule songs for sure. Like, love it or hate it, I'm gonna say it, controversial or not, whatever. I don't dislike Ja Rule. I think Ja Rule was and is a good rapper. I like that his style is unique. He has that gravelly voice. He's very distinctive.
I do like his voice, 100%.
And whether or not he sounded like Cookie Monster while singing or whatever, he's doing him. And I enjoyed his career while he had it, before 50 Cent came through and destroyed it and literally did the same thing he was doing with the sing-songy rap shit. So it's just, I don't know.
50 and Eminem, they double teamed him.
100%. Well,
which is, I think, that's part of the why I have a huge bias, because I was Eminem was like one of the first like rap artists, obviously. I mean, if you look at me, it makes sense. That I like, really like heavily listened to growing up.
Yeah.
So like, kind of my intro to Ja Rule was like Eminem's, and then just by proxy 50 Cent's songs like that came out from that beef or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I've always just kind of had like Ja Rule is that dude that got wiped by 50 Cent and Eminem.
I agree.
No point listening to him. Like, for a big part of my life, that's just how I viewed Ja Rule. But like this song is a good example. It's not the only example. I've definitely heard some other Ja Rule songs in like in the last like several years or so, or it'll just randomly come across and I'll be like, he's not as bad as I've been thinking all this time. Like I am not going to call myself like a fan of his necessarily, but I've given him a lot of undue hate in my mind.
Look, I mean, I agree to a certain extent. Like definitely, I think the whole 50 Cent Eminem beef. I mean, I'm not 50 Cent Eminem, but the Shady Records versus Murder Inc. whole situation back then, it was definitely overhyped and definitely, I don't know. Just when it comes down to the music, I think Ja Rule's music was a little bit better when it comes to the production and stuff overall.
I'm also not at all a fan of 50 Cent, so I can agree with that.
Yeah,
but if you're just comparing those two, I think Ja Rule wins.
Yeah, I mean, I like early 50. Then after that, 50 kind of started falling off, and losing.
It's hit or miss for me. Even early 50 is very hit or miss for me.
Yeah, fair enough. But I want to acknowledge that you owe me a great bit of gratitude because the Stevie Wonder version of the song "Do I Do," which came out in 1982, the original version of the song was over 10 minutes long. And I had to search and try to find a shorter version of the song, and I finally found one that I could put on the playlist. And by short, I think it's still like 6 minutes. But even then,
is it just him saying "Do I do" like for 5 more minutes? Like,
no.
Is there other verses?
There's other verses, like a whole breakdown jazz session where he has like a call and response. It's like, say, "Do I do? Do I do?" And then the band start playing. It's just like a whole jam session. Because when I first was putting the playlist together, I was like, I know this song or whatever. I put that on, played it, started doing stuff around the house. Some more. Went to the grocery store.
Finished your stuff around the house. Went and got grocery, came back, and the song's still playing.
Got my oil changed.
Yeah.
Rearranged my office. The song's still going on. I was like, okay, I got to find a single cut or some kind of shorter version of this song. But I like I said, Ja Rule and Case did their damn thing on it, and it's still a bop. And then the beat, the producer who did "Livin' It Up," which I did not look to credit, so forgive me on that, but the way he flipped the beat was really dope. It sounds like an Irv Gotti beat, but I could be misremembering it. But who knows? But yeah, man, it's just it's amazing. Now let's kind of get to the sad part, and I really hate to end the episode on a sad note like this, but it kind of is. So the All I Do trio. I knew the Stevie Wonder version of the song "All I Do." And when
that was another one that I had like heard, like I knew, but I didn't know,
Yeah.
Which is honestly like any song I feel like by Stevie Wonder that I, in quotes there, knew, I feel like kind of falls in that. Cause again, I had not really like ever went and just focused, listened to them.
Yeah.
So,
well, I knew the chorus because I felt like there was a remake of this song somewhere in my memory where I was like, I know like it had like I don't know who, but I felt like it had like a faster beat where the whole, like, I felt somebody sampled it. Maybe I had a sample in my mind that I've always wanted to do and never got a chance to fulfill it. But I felt like I've heard the sample song before. So I was like, okay, let me research this song to try to find the version that I wanted to feature on the playlist. And that's when I came across PJ and Tammy Terrell. So when I listened to the Tammy Terrell song, I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. I was like, so Stevie did a cover of another song that early on in his career. I mean, granted, people did that kind of thing back in the day, but you kind of think, Stevie of doing original material, not really so much doing the cover.
Mm-hmm.
So then I found the Tammy Terrell version and I put that on the playlist because it's so good. It's so sweet. So this
the whole song, both versions are very sweet, I feel like.
Yeah. So upon doing my research, Stevie Wonder wrote the song. He wrote Tammy Terrell's song.
For Tammy? Okay.
Yeah, and Tammy's version came out in 1966. So Stevie co-wrote this song when he was a teenager. Oh. He was like barely 15 or 16 years old when he co-wrote this song. And Tammy Terrell has
So he's really not even doing a Tammy Terrell song. He's doing a Tammy and Stevie song that Tammy performed.
Exactly.
You could argue.
More or less, yeah. Or something that he co-wrote that Motown gave to Tammy Terrell to sing. And
Well, that's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
you didn't say if Tammy helped him write it or not.
No, yeah. So gave it to Tammy to sing, and then there's actually another version of the song that Motown gave another artist on their label to sing. I think her name was like Brenda Holloway or something like that. Her version is garbage. I did not like her version at all. Tammy Terrell blew her out of the water, and I'm glad Tammy's version exists, but it exists, but it wasn't really. I don't think it was put out. I think it was like kind of in the vault in Motown's library. But they eventually did like a collection for Tammy Terrell and her music. So a brief aside about Tammy Terrell. This is the part where it's going to get sad. So grab your napkins and tear buckets, y'all. She was, I think she recorded this song. I think she was like, I don't know, in her early 20s. And her career kind of blossomed as she was doing background for different artists or whatever. But then she linked up with Marvin Gaye. And her and Marvin Gaye put together like a lot of duet albums together. And
that's where I'm familiar with Tammy Terrell is from her songs with Marvin Gaye.
Okay, cool. So you're already familiar with that then. Well, her career got cut short when she collapsed on stage while performing with Marvin Gaye, and she was pronounced dead shortly thereafter. She was only 24 years old. So,
dang.
Yeah, her career got cut hella short. So in her lifetime, she had like multiple brain surgeries to deal with like a brain cancer situation. But of course, this is in the mid 60s. So obviously, medical technology and advances weren't necessarily as good as they are now. But they tried different procedures. I think she went through at least like three or four different multiple surgeries, and she complained about headaches and all these other things. In addition to going through the cancer and stuff, she was actually like brutally abused by many of the other artists on Motown or affiliated with Motown, including James Brown. He allegedly beat the shit out of her. And
wasn't James Brown known for being kind of like that to a lot of people? Yeah.
And a lot of other men on that Motown record label at the time. And at one point, she was involved with another guy at Motown that allegedly beat her with a motorcycle helmet. So, in addition to fighting cancer, she was being physically...
cancer of the brain, too, dude.
Yeah, that's no joke. But, like, for her to, like, collapse, like, doing the thing that she loved and, like, pretty much, like, died on stage was very sad. And then
that's heartbreaking.
Really is heartbreaking. And the fact that she was only 24, like, that's so young. To be going through all of that and to be surrounded with all of that. And her family definitely felt some kind of way, obviously, about like the whole Motown situation. Felt like the CEO, Barry Gordy, didn't like do enough to like protect her in that situation. So much so that Marvin Gaye was the only person from Motown that was allowed to be at her funeral because her family was not having it.
So I assume there's no stories of like Marvin Gaye abusing her. I assume that if they worked together as much as they did.
I mean, there's allegations, but I mean,
they're both passed away at this point, so we'll probably never know.
We'll never know. But they did do a lot of music together, and a lot of their music, which we can go down a whole rabbit hole with them, honestly, like are still viable to this day. Like the song that blew up Method Man and Mary J. Blige, "You're All I Need to Get By," that was Tammy Terrell and Marvin Gaye, and that like skyrocketed his career and so forth. So that's the sad part. Now picking up the good part was again, this is back in 1966. So in 1980 is when Stevie, I guess, dusted off the record and kind of wanted, I guess, pay homage to her or whoever.
I was going to say at this point it's like it's a homage and a giving flowers to this artist that had passed away tragically and everything. And then he had written that, he wrote the song for it and everything. But then, with everything you just told me, it makes a lot more sense why Stevie would do, like you said, like he's kind of known for doing his own original songs. So
yeah. And discovering that, I was just like, oh wow, that's crazy. And then, trying to find a recent version of this, it was like, I wonder if somebody else did this song. And then I stumbled across PJ in the One Miss Call, and I hear that beat, and I was just like, oh shit, okay, I like the flip. And then the song itself, I was like, okay, I like her singing. Not familiar with PJ at all.
Okay. I was about to ask because I'd never heard of PJ or this song.
No,
before
no,
this.
no. She from what I gathered online, she is a songwriter and singer. PJ, aka Paris Jones, but she goes by PJ. She's written songs for like Chris Brown, Charlie Puth, among other people, and she had a song featured on the hit HBO show Insecure called Element, and I listened to that song. I did not include it on the playlist because this is all Stevie Wonder, but highly recommend you go listen to that song. Element is definitely a pre-gaming song, geared mostly towards the ladies, but anybody can enjoy it. But it's definitely a pre-game joint, and it's a good song. But I like the way they flipped it on the Woman's Call. So I was like, okay. So
yeah, I did too.
So in doing the math, this song, again, he wrote when he was 15. So 53 years later, the Woman's Call song came out in 2019.
Yeah, honestly, I felt like it came out earlier than that.
Right?
Not that I didn't think it was like 90s joint or anything. One Missed Call. Yeah. But I didn't realize it was that recent until like just now.
Yeah. That was 2019. So yeah, again, just to further say that, to kind of, I guess, wrap it all up with a nice little bow, if you would. This man has been in the music game for over 60 something years. He has a song that he wrote when he was 15 years old that is still being played and manipulated with and sampled 50 something years after the inception of the song. And it's collaborating with people like Chica like a year ago in 2023.
Who is like, not like, I know you and me have been rooting for her since that album came out, since even before that album came out, but she's like not like a mainstream like household name artist, right?
Exactly.
So I feel like that even like is even more to the point of like, he's like, no, he's not just like hopping on to like, oh, what who's making a major radio hit? Like, no, he's tuned in to like what's happening in the music culture, and like he's finding these, I don't know if we want to call Chica diamond in the rough, but I feel like maybe like just looking at it from like a general population, you could maybe say that you could attribute her to that, or attribute that to her.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome, man. That he's just everything you just said, that he's still, his legacy goes all the way that far back and is still being added to. So a lot of times, like, even if they are still alive nowadays, it's like, oh, they're only playing, they might go tour, that you might hear of them or whatever, and they're just playing their old hits and they're not really doing anything new.
Mm-hmm.
How often do you hear a musician as like storied as Stevie Wonder is, literally hopping on brand new stuff with brand new people?
Yeah,
it's pretty wild, and that definitely is a testament to both him as an artist, and I feel like him as a person, and like what he hopes to achieve, like with music. I feel like,
yeah, like that. Yeah, definitely all of that. That's how you know you are born to do this.
Yeah, 100,000%. He's doing what he's meant to do.
Like, regardless of what setbacks you face or what ailments or disadvantages life sets you up with, when you know your calling, that's your calling. And again, this whole journey for me, and again, we're not even tapping all the other classics, but just from my own music library, my own music listening experience, to know that there's a Stevie Wonder lurking in the shadows the whole time. Like, it just really, really kind of blows your mind, because you're like, okay, I like this song. And you're like, oh yeah, Stevie Wonder with it. Oh, that's Stevie on the harmonica. It's just like, this man is ubiquitous. Like, he does not stop. He's a machine. So,
like, I feel like I've been in, like, I don't know, the last so many episodes, I feel like maybe I've been overusing the word ubiquitous, because like Stevie is like truly he is ubiquitous in like pop culture and just music at large. Yeah, I don't know what else to say beyond that, man. He's one of a kind.
That's it.
Alrighty, well, thank you everyone for tuning in today and listening to the playlist and hanging out with us as we talk about Stevie Wonder. We love hearing from you, so thanks for any feedback you want to send us about the show, any episode, or the playlist themselves. You can go to afterplaylist.com for our social media links, previous episodes, and previous music playlists. Also, if you're enjoying the content, be sure to like and share this episode and the playlist. It's totally free and helps support the show. If you want to help monetarily, we do also have a Patreon at patreon.com/afterplaylist. But liking and subscribing is free and much easier to do. So,
yep.
Alrighty. Until next time, everyone, keep on listening.
Ooh,
Bye.
yeah. I mean, bye.
Perfect.
Black Giraffe made this.